Okay, so your GMO greetings. Yet I say we thank you once again for tuning in. For those who are unaware, I am Odwirafo Kwesi Nebt Het Akan Odwirafo of Akua Maruka TV Mudi Akwamu Nation in North America within Ojiraman, the purified nation, Afurakani, Afurakaiti people, African Black people in the Western Hemisphere. So I just wanted to do this live to introduce to the community, our subscribers, our followers, a special that we are offering to our subscribers and followers, those of you subscribed on YouTube as well as Patreon and some of the social media platforms that we're on. So we have talked about our two different programs, our SUSUW Meditation Instructor Certification course, which is a 4-week online course. The next one begins Tuesday, August 19th. And then we also have our Akungwasuya institution. We have our Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree, also supporting entrepreneurship. So within the first 2 weeks of that program, you get your first certification so you can begin to utilize your certification to generate income for yourself while you're completing the Bachelor of Arts degree, Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree that we call Nimdeesem. And the image you see on the screen is reflecting these two programs, but we have a special payment option for our subscribers. But first, I want to touch on culturally what we're doing with regard to institution building and the spiritual foundation for that, the cosmological foundation for that, rooted in our ancestral religious practices. And when you see the image of the Ohima, the queen here with the bowl, that's very important. So let me show you what we're attuned to. So first we're going to pull up an image of one of our screens on our website. Okay, so this is our page on our website. It says Akwesi Adai, which is also Awusidai and Awuku Adai. So in the Akan culture, when we talk about Akan culture, we are ethnically Akan. So those of our people who were forced from the regions of Ghana and Ivory Coast into North America during the what we call the Musuo Kesie, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era. Those of us who maintained our Akan ancestral religion and identity, we continued our Akan ancestral religion in the form of Undu, which later came to be pronounced Hoodoo. But Undu is the term from the Akan language, meaning roots, medicine from roots, trees, plant life, and so forth. Undu also means to become heavy with the spirit through spirit possession, spirit communication, and a number of different, spiritual connotations. So we preserved our Akan identity, Akan ancestral culture, ritual practices through the Hoodoo tradition. The Hoodoo man and Hoodoo woman are the Akan man, Akan woman who preserved the Akan priesthood and priestesses and so forth. We talked about that in the last live that we did actually last night that you can check out on the channel. This page, Awusidai, Awukuadai, is talking about sacred ritual observances, ancestral observances that take place once every 6 weeks. So Awusida means Sunday, Awusi Adai or Akwesi Adai means an ancestral or a sacred Sunday. So every 6 weeks, there's a sacred Sunday. Every 42 days, an ancestral observance. So if you look at the page, we have the dates because all Akan people all around different parts of the world, including North America, who are practicing the tradition, observe this sacred calendar. So for this year, for example, October 27th, December 8th, January 19th, March 2nd, April 13th, and so forth. The next Awusidai is this Sunday, which is Awusida means Sunday, but Awusiadai or Akwesiadai is the sacred ancestral observance. It's the end of the previous 42-day cycle and the beginning of the next 42-day cycle. So it's a time to reflect, recharge, purify ourselves, and move forward in the next sacred cycle, focused to execute what we need to execute for the next 6 weeks or 42 days. That's a sacred cycle. So it's also the beginning. That next cycle is the end of the summer cycle. So that goes into September, actually the end of September and so forth, which for us, September 16th through the 22nd is a 7-day observance. That is our New Year observance. So that will be our New Year observance, September 22nd. The autumn equinox will be our first day of our new year of 13,026, not 2026, but 13,026, because we're in the midst of a 26,000 year cycle. We're halfway through it astronomically, hence the year is beginning with 13,000. And of course, as we've shown in our books and publications and courses, Jesus is a fictional character who never existed of any form or of any race. Neither did Muhammad or Allah or Yahweh, Buddha, Brahman. All of the fake traditions we don't entertain. We expose the fraud of them. So when we talk about ancestry religion, we're talking about reality. So we don't track time based on a fictional character who never existed 2,000 years ago. So our new year begins the first day of autumn. This year, that's September 22nd. So that will be our new year. But this final 42-day cycle beginning this Sunday, Awusida, August 17th, begins a new cycle. It's also the beginning of our final summer session for our course, SUSUW, Meditation Instructor Certification. And through that 4-week course, you take that course August 19th through September 9th. You receive your certification, and you can use that certification to go into places of business, schools, cultural organizations, human services organizations to conduct introductory meditations, sessions with employees or youth, students, clients at these organizations and so forth. And most organizations will pay between $100, $200, some $300 for a half an hour session. And we take you through that entire process so you can become employed immediately, also giving tangible benefit to our communities. So we impact the community in a positive capacity, but you also empower yourself economically. It's always a balance between the two. This is why we're talking about cultural, financial freedom and so forth. But this is the beginning of this next cycle. And if you also look, you'll see that within that 42-day cycle, a 6-week cycle, every 6th Sunday, there's also every 6th Wednesday, or a wukuda, which is called a wukuadai. Halfway through, there's a sacred ancestral observance every 6th Wednesday. The last one was July 30th, and the next one will be September 10th. So we have, for example, we'll have a Wusidai this Sunday, August 17th, a sacred ancestral observance. We engage in certain ritual practices to realign ourselves in harmony with divine order and with our spiritually cultivated class of who we call Nananom Nsamanfo, spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of our spirit-genetic blood circles. And that's August 17th. Then 3.5 weeks later is the Awuku Adai, or the Sacred Wednesday observance. This one, the final one, is September 10th for this year. And we have a quote unquote a mini ancestral observance on that Sacred Wednesday. And then 2.5 weeks later is the next Awusidai, or the next Sacred Sunday. So it's basically, you have the Sacred Sunday, 3.5 weeks is the midpoint, which is the Sacred Wednesday observance. And then 2.5 weeks later is the 42nd day and so forth. And then you get into the 43rd day, which becomes the first day, and that's the next cycle. So every 6 weeks, every 42 days is a sacred cycle. And that goes back to ancient Kemet, when you have 42 divisions of the country. You have the 42 deities, or the assessors of Ma'at and so forth. So we talk about that in a different broadcast. But the reason we brought that up is because the Awukudai, the Sacred Wednesday and so forth, yesterday, of course, was a Awukuda Wednesday. And I want to show you this symbolism with regard to the woman on the front, on the image that we use for this particular live stream. And you'll see that she's holding a vessel. You see she's holding that vessel, and that is a sacred process and ritual act. So there's a specific divinity. She's called Nebt Het in ancient Kemet. She's called Akua in the Akan tradition. We did a whole live on her, but we want to get into that cosmology because she's directly related to this notion of abundance, of business, transactions, and so forth. Also, education. And let me show you an image of the divinity Nebt Het from inside one of the tombs of the Valley of the Kings when we were visiting ancient Kemet. And we used the same image for the live that we did recently. So you see that Nebt Het in the language and culture of ancient Kemet, she's called Akua in Akan. You see the sacred Akua doll in the background. But this is Nebt Het. She's the wife of Set. So you'll see Alsar, Alset, Set, and Nebt Het are two sets of twins, quadruplets, and so forth. But she governs the rain waters of earth and a number of different aspects of creation, which we're about to get into. But you see that she has the vessel on her head. That's the same vessel that the sister was carrying. Any female born on Wednesday in Akan culture is called Akua, named after this divinity. So let's get into the cosmology of that and how that sacred ritual offering that she carries in her sacred vessel is also associated with when we invoke this divinity to assist us with regard to financial empowerment, bringing resources and so forth, aligning ourselves with the resources of creation. And that translates into aligning ourselves with gathering the proper resources to empower our people and also engage in entrepreneurship. So I'm going to take you to one of the books that I have published. So some of you may be unaware. So if you're unaware, to date, I published 31 books, and then we just released an anthology, which makes 32, a 600-page anthology. We'll talk about that at the end of the course and so forth, or the live stream. But the 31 books, the ebook versions are free downloads from our website. So you can go to the website, the home page on our website. We're going to give you the link for that. You can download all these 31 books for free. This is one of them, and it's a very important work. It's one of the more popular books that we have published because of the nature of the subject matter. And as you can see here, it's called Ankh, the origin, Ankh, the origin of the term yoga. Karakasa, the origin and nature of the chakra. And we published this book because there's a great deal of misinformation regarding these terms. The whites and offspring put forth the false notion that the terms yoga and chakra come from the Sanskrit language of India. In reality, we have been using these terms for thousands of years before India. When our people migrated to India tens of thousands of years ago and established civilization, we carried these terms with us. Tens of thousands of years later, the whites and offspring invaded from the north and invaded India and learned about these terms from our people and began to incorporate it into a corrupted pseudo-spiritual practice. But in this book, we go into detail dealing with the notion of the origin of the term yoga comes from the term Ankh or Yonk and so forth, which was corrupted into Yuk, Yonk and Yunek and Yonk and Yug and so forth, and later Yunka and Yoga and Yok and so forth. And then the term Karakara is the origin of the term chakra. So we go into detail about that in the book. But one of the things that we address, which is important, in the Akan tradition, you see that there is the sacred fertility doll, as it's called, the Akua doll, that Akan people use today. Same as the Ankh in ancient Kemet. So at the end of the book, we included an appendix. And first, let me just show you real quick. We give you the linguistic and cosmological proof that the term Ankh or Yonk, you see the little Ankh or Yonk around the neck of the goat in the form of a yoke and so forth. So we show that the term Ankh is spelled with the domesticated goat. This is the term Ankh, the symbol Ankh. In the Akan language, Onkwa means life. The term Ankh means life in ancient Kemet. You see the different spellings of Ankh here in the Medutan Total Hieroglyphic Dictionary. There are two major spellings that we focus on in the book. Hold on 1 second. One of them is spelled here with the determinative of a shrouded, mummified ancestral spirit. And another one is a symbol of the Ankh and the domesticated goat, showing that this is an animated life form. And this is another version of that. And you see the Ankh around the neck of the goat in the form of a yoke. And we simply show that the term Ankh was corrupted into Yonk, Yunk, yoke, and so forth. And a little bit further down, when we talk about the origin of the term chakra, or kakra, as you can see in Sanskrit, kakra meaning circle or wheel. Originally, that's all that chakra or kakra meant, was circle or wheel. They began to associate spiritual potencies with these circles once they learned about that from our texts in ancient Kemet and began to corrupt them. As you can see in the Medutan Total, the hieroglyphs, kara, kara, anything round, staff, stick, roll, or cylinder. So that means circular, wheel structure, and so forth. And then we go further and show that kara, kara also is the term for shrine. Shrine, sanctuary, gods of the same sanctuary, gods of a shrine, and so forth. This is one of the sacred shrines in ancient Kemet and so forth. And then we go into detail showing the names of the different divinities, forces in nature that govern, the 7 sacred centers. So when you see these, the nerve ganglia and the different regions, the 7 sacred regions, and then we point out in the text of Kemet, in the pyramid text, as well as coffin texts and so forth. Let me pull this up real quick. You have invocations to the SUSUW, or the 7 divine masters of wisdom who help Tuhuti, the divinity of divine wisdom, to plan the universe. So these 7 divinities, and you see here, Oyu 7 knots of Mahit Urat. That's the goddess here. 7 sons of this goddess and of the male divinity Tuhuti, as you see here. Those 7 divinities are the ones who govern the 7 sacred centers that are called the Karakara, or Kakra, or Chakra, and so forth. So there's an entire cosmology that's missing if you study Hinduism or Buddhism or Taoism. You don't get the original piece. So that's a very involved, detailed text, but at the end of it, we put in our appendix an article that we published talking about the female divinity Akua, who carries the sacred vessel. So this is Akua. This is from the tomb of Tutankhamen in the Valley of the Kings. Of course, this is a female divinity. Of course, she's shown as a black female divinity. Of course, anytime the deity is manifested in this kind of form, quote unquote, human form, spiritually, sometimes they would send their energy into the sacred animal totem, and that's fiery force would animate a lion and so forth, carries the energy of that divinity. Of course, their energy is infused in certain plant life. So, for example, ginger is a fiery root. So the energy of a fiery divinity is deposited in a fiery root. Certain minerals that are fiery carry the fiery energy, and then certain individuals who have a fiery temperament, they are children of a fire divinity and so forth. And when the deity shows up, engages in spirit possession, you see them clairvoyantly. When they show that kind of form, it's always going to be in the form of a black female or black male, never a non-black individual. But these are the forces in nature that govern the suns, moons, planets, stars, black substance of space, oceans, rivers, and so forth. And of course, Akua is one of them. So she's the one with the vessel on her head, as you can see. So in our Akan culture, she's called Akua. any woman, female born on Wednesday is named after her. Her Kradin is Akua or Akua. She governs the planet Akua or Aku, which is the planet Mercury. She's a nurse mother, but she's also a divine courieress, and you see the vessel that she has. She governs the excretory function of lactation for nursing for women as a nurse mother, and also the rain waters, which is like lactation for Asase, for the fertile earth mother. She nourishes the living and protects the spirits who transition to Asamando, the ancestral realm. Hold on 1 second. Then we also show she's called Iberu in the Yoruba culture, the load bearer, the wife of Eshu. She's called Koni Koni in Vodun, the wife of Legba. And she's called Nebt Het in Kemet and Knesset and Kani, Egypt and Nubia and so forth. And so then we start showing her the Medutu, the hieroglyphs that make up her name. And then we also prove that the same hieroglyphs of Medut Toro that make up her name with the vessel and the house and so forth. When you look in the Akan language, so you have the sacred vessel here, and then the symbol of the house or the ritual enclosure, you'll find that the term and name Akua in Akan has the same meaning. So we just go into some cosmology about that, but hold on 1 second, let me make sure that's back up. All right, so just there, we're just proving that the same terms used in the Akan language are derived directly from ancient Kemet. So we say in Yoruba culture, Akua is called Agberu, the wife of Eshu. Eshu is the divine messenger of the supreme being. Eshu carries the messages of the people to the Orisha, which in Akan is called Obosom, and the Egungun, the ancestral spirits who are spiritually cultivated, which are called Nananom and Samanfo in Akan. And as Agbero in the Yoruba tradition, she carries the Ebo, the sacrifices of ritual offerings, in a basket from the people to the Orisha and Egungun, the deities and ancestral spirits. And the name Agbero in Yoruba means the load bearer. She carries the load on her head. In the same fashion, that same divinity is called Akua in our culture in the Akan language. She is the wife of Awuku, who is the same as Eshu in Yoruba, Set in ancient Kemet. Set is the messenger, divine messenger, and the trickster in ancient Kemet. He's called Eshu in Yoruba. He's called Awuku or Aku, also Kweku Anansi in Akan. And he is the husband of the courieress, just like in Yoruba, Eshu, the trickster and messenger, is the husband of the courieress Agberu. Same thing in Vodun. So in Kemet, she is Nebt Het, the wife of Set. Her headdress is comprised of that basket or vessel she carries on the head. She uses to carry the ritual offerings from the physical realm to the spirit realm. And then we show that in Akan, this basket is an earthen vessel called Kukua. And as you can see here, Kukua, a small earthen vessel. You also see Akua, a recess in the courtyard, a small yard behind the house. So the very hieroglyphs that make up the name Nebt Het. Nebet is the vessel and Het is the ritual enclosure. The very same descriptions in the Akan language for the deity Akua. The related terms Kukua means a small earthen vessel, and that's also a title of Akua. A Wednesday-born female can be Akua or Kukua. The one who is the vessel, she is a vessel. And then Akua also means a recess in the courtyard, a small yard behind the house. That is literally the literal description of the ancient hieroglyph. This is a bird's eye view of a ritual enclosure, temple enclosure. And then we give the Medud and Toro, the hieroglyphs for that and all of that, and definitions just to further prove that. In the physical body, those vessels that you see are the kidneys. Those are the vessels similar to the, rain clouds that redistribute, precipitation and so forth. There's evaporation that comes from the oceans, lakes, rivers, and so forth, comes together in the clouds and so forth, collects, condenses, condensation, and then the precipitation is the redistribution of water to the parts of the dry earth that need it, and the plant life, animal life, mineral life, us, Afurakani, human life. In a similar fashion, those great clouds, which are governed by Heteru, those black rain clouds and so forth, that release the regenerating water. The kidneys facilitate fluid balance in the body, mineral balance in the body, electrolyte balance in the body, redistribution of water and so forth. That fluid balance, purification, excreting toxins to purify the system and so forth. The kidneys are those vessels and literally are the shrine, the physical shrine of the spirit, Nebt Het, in the body, of Akua in the body, carrying that sacred, purificatory water. And there's symbolism in our Akan culture that reflects that as well. And then we have the well-known Akua dolls, fertility dolls, and so forth. Of course, that fertility doll, the Akua doll, is the same as the Ankh in ancient Kemet. We continue to utilize that same symbolism thousands of years later in Ghana and Ivory Coast, and then brought it into North America. There's a fertility function for them, but then you also have a funerary type of Akua doll that's not dealing with fertility, but dealing with what happens when people transition and you assist the spirit to make a smooth transition. And this is the symbol of the funerary version of the Akua, the same as the vessel on the head of Nebt Het. We have these on the graves of the ancestresses and ancestors who are buried and so forth, looking up towards the sky and so forth, is the same symbol for Akua or Nebt Het in ancient Kemet. We continue to use that same symbol in our ritual sculptures. So we just show that right there. We show the connection. You'll also see that sometimes you have an Ankh with a jed pillar in the middle. When you look at the Akua doll in Akan culture, when you turn them around and look at the back of the head, very often they will have a jed pillar on the back of the head. So the same symbolism, the combination of the jed pillar with the bars across the top, the parallel bars, fused together with the Ankh. We have the Ankh, the Akua, and you flip it around, the jed pillar is there as well. Unbroken symbolism, tens of thousands of years, unbroken. And that's important to show the identity of the culture. And it's also important to show that sometimes the Ankhs in ancient Kemet have arms and hands just like you see in our Akan culture. These are Yoruba women carrying the vessel on the head, Agberu and so forth. So we just show that just to show there's a cultural continuity across various Afurakani groups. Here's more symbolism regarding that. And then we also show that the Ankh itself is representative. In the Akan language, the human body is called Onipa Dria, which means the person. Onipa in Dria means tree. So the physical body is considered like a tree, and the branches are the arms and legs and so forth, and the foliage is the hair and so forth. So when you look at the Ankh, it is representative of the human being, male as well as female. There are male Ankhs and female Ankhs. There are male Akua dolls and female Akua dolls. And so we just show a connection to that. And then there's one other piece we want to show with regard to that, just to tighten that up. And that is dealing with the Undu Akua. And we touched on this in the recent broadcast, but let's just get back to it real quick. And of course, if you have any questions on any of this information, cosmology, just post it in the chat room. So this is one of the articles that we published in our Hoodoo Mind, Hoodoo Nation journal, talking about the hoodoo doll baby. And the reason why that's relevant here is because we show from, of course, the symbolism of ancient Kemet with the Ankh and so forth, and the Akua doll, but then we preserve that. This is from Akan areas in Ghana and Ivory Coast, but these are from North America. This one on the right is from Jekyll Island in Georgia. This one was found in Virginia in the 1700s, and we were able to acquire that particular one from an auction that was being sold as an African-American slave doll. And in fact, let me show you an article dealing with that right quick. This is the one that we acquired with the assistance of one of our elderesses. It was being auctioned online, was found in Virginia in the 1700s. They were calling it an African-American slave doll, but we recognize it as the Akua doll. One of our Akan ancestresses carved this over 300 years ago, and we were able to acquire it. And it is at the shrines within Hoodoo Jase Dain, the Hearth Shrine of Akan Ancestry Religion in North America, our Hoodoo temple space. We have that with us, so it's a sacred relic from our ancestresses and ancestors from 300 plus years ago here in North America. But we continue to utilize the Akua in North America for ritual purposes and so forth. And the one on the end, this one is a recent creation a few years ago by one of the sisters practicing the hoodoo tradition and making a traditional hoodoo doll baby, which is the Akua doll from the Akan tradition, which is the Ankh from ancient Kemet, unbroken from tens of thousands of years ago to West Africa, West Africa, into North America in the blood circles of our people unbroken. But the key with regard to that is the sacred symbolism of the ritual offering. She's the divine courieress, as we said. She carries that sacred symbol on her head and so forth. And you see the sister carrying the ritual offerings, but the ritual offerings also means offerings in the context of media of exchange. So when you're engaged in media of exchange, the husband of Akua is Awuku, which is Set. He's the divine messenger and trickster and so forth. He governs media of exchange, but part of that exchange is the ritual offering. So he governs the prayers, ritual invocations and so forth, communication, and then Akua governs the ritual offerings that are given to the forces in nature. We give offerings at the shrines and so forth, and to the ancestresses and ancestors to provoke an energetic dispensation to replenish the energy within us. So just like if you push the lion, you're going to provoke an energetic response back towards you. When you engage in ritual prayer, for example, and you project sound vibrations that provoke the energy of a spiritual force in nature, then the response is a dispensation or a release of energy that's infused within you, that replenishes your own energy, strengthens and fortifies you, and realigns you with order. It's no different on a mundane level. If you have a child, a newborn, when the child is ready to eat or suckle on the breast and so forth, the child cries. Those sound vibrations are a ritual invocation to the mother. Those sound vibrations hit the eardrums of the mother. It provokes a response so she can respond and then nourish the child and release the nourishing milk that, fortifies the child and protects the child with enzymes and so forth. So our ritual invocations, our prayers, our chants and so forth, also our ritual offerings, the energy release when we engage in ritual offering and ritual prayer, that energy is released. It provokes the energy of the force in nature who responds by releasing a dispensation of energy to us that infuses us, just like a child suckling on the mother's, breast and so forth, pulls the milk out, takes that in, we become nourished, also empowered, also the immunity, that spiritual immunity, protection, and so forth. That's why we give ritual offerings. And that's the same thing with regard to business. We're giving something to the community. They're giving something back to us. And when they, compensate us, what we're giving should be in harmony with what they compensate. When we give meditation, teach that, and let's look at the benefits of that, how it benefits the community. Then our compensation as entrepreneurs and so forth is a balanced compensation. And so we want to talk about that and show that. So we have two separate things. You look at this, I'm going to talk about SUSUW first, our 4-week course, and we're giving an offering to all of you, our subscribers, a special offering, special payment plan option for that we just posted today, earlier this morning. And then we'll talk about the Nimdeesem, the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree, and how to utilize that immediately to engage in entrepreneurial endeavors. Same thing with the certification to engage in entrepreneurship. But we always lay the cultural and spiritual foundation first. Everything we do, whether it's business, exercise, medicine, everything has a spiritual connotation and foundation. This is our SUSUW meditation certification, instructor certification, information on our webpage. And when you go through this course, what we learn, of course, we learn the original, authentic Afro-Akani, the African approach to SUSUW, which is the ancient term for meditation. Of course, we've been practicing that for tens of thousands of years. Before whites or Asians existed on earth, we were already engaged in the ritual process of SUSUW meditation. You'll even see here that this is Nebt Het, the son of Hapu, over 3,300 years ago, seated in the traditional meditative posture and so forth. So in the trailer, we're talking about, what the course is about. That's just a little 2-minute trailer. But one of the images you'll see there is not only Nebt Het, the son of Hapu, but you will also, that's when we were teaching in ancient Kemet. But this is an ancestress from the Akan tradition, seated in the traditional Gua, on the traditional Gua, in the meditative SUSUW posture and so forth. So what we give to the community, when we teach SUSUW, or we go into a place of business, a place of employment, and they have their employees having a seminar and so forth for enhancing productivity. And before they get into the workshops and the breakout sessions, they say, okay, we're going to bring somebody in and conduct a 20-minute meditation session, a mindfulness, meditation session and so forth. And they bring you in. As we say, most places pay between $100, $200. Some, the corporations pay $300, $400, $500. But they bring you in to engage in that process. Let's look at what is going on with that. We say SUSUW is the ancient Akan term for meditation. It originated in our ancestral culture of Afro-Akai tens of thousands of years ago. This ancient practice has been utilized to regulate physical, emotional, and mental balance for millennia in varied expressions wherever our people have migrated in the world. Now, this is key for your practice when you become certified. The scientific benefits of meditation for youth and adults have been well documented. Enhancing learning outcomes, regulating behavior, overcoming anxiety and depression, rebalancing hormones, lowering blood pressure, reducing stress, regulating weight loss, overcoming addictions, developing discipline, maintaining focus to overcome obstacles to short and long-term goals. So when you look at those different scientific, quote unquote scientific benefits, then that directly informs your practice. When you go, if you like to work with youth, you can go into schools, after school programs and so forth. Many of the schools incorporate meditation at the beginning of the day to focus the children, make them more calm and balanced and regulate their behavior and so forth. It enhances learning outcomes and so forth. They can retain more. So you can go in for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and once a week at a certain school and conduct a meditation session with the youth and so forth. We have our Nkwamuwa Whole Life Journal where we show you and take you step by step. So you have a manual of what, even if you have a multi-week or a month, contract, like you're going to come and teach or conduct meditation sessions once a week for 4 weeks or 6 weeks. We have our Nkwamuwa Whole Life Journal to, have information to give out to your clients and guide you through each session, so you're not just having to make up something. It's a totally structured piece. But when you're establishing these contracts and we show you how to do that, you give them the benefits, enhancing learning outcomes, regulating behavior, lowering stress and so forth, and anxiety, depression, being more focused and disciplined. That's good for youth. That's good for after school programs. That's also good for people in the workplace, enhancing work productivity, of course, lowering stress. Some people may invite you out to a cultural organization where they're doing a seminar or marketplace on holistic health. They want someone to conduct, a meditation session. We have information in our book about holistic health, so you can talk for a few minutes about that, take them through a session. After the session is done, have a short question and answer session. That's a 20 to 30-minute process. The book takes you step by step, and they have immediate benefits: lowering blood pressure, reducing anxiety, more focus, more discipline, rebalancing hormones and so forth. They experience an immediate benefit just because they came in contact with you. And then your benefit, of course, is twofold. You're assisting and empowering the community, but you're also being compensated and working as a self-employed individual that's empowering our people, impacting our community positively, but also, I'm getting paid to do so. Same thing if you go into places of employment, enhancing work productivity, lowering anxiety, a number of different things. So there are different applications. Human services organizations where people have women's shelters, family shelters, people are getting, ready to go back into the workforce, or they're being assisted with a social worker for housing. They have, therapeutic groups, and they meet on a regular basis every few days or once a week. The therapist is saying, I'm going to bring someone out on Friday to conduct a short 10-minute meditation session with us to help us get focused and so forth. You can do a, group therapy session once a week, be invited to that. You can do a school on Monday. You can do a group therapy session for a homeless shelter or a woman or family shelter on Tuesday. You can go to a place of business on Thursday. You can go to a cultural organization on a Friday, and you're just doing a half an hour to an hour each at each space. And you can generate enough money to either cover a number of things you need to cover, or some people do it full time. So hold on a second. All right. So we go through that entire process there. Now, what we've done with this particular offering, today we added this. So normally when you go through the page, you'll see that we have this original option here, which is on the Square platform. And when you go through that platform, this is what you'll see. It goes into detail about the course, and we've done a number of lives on this channel. So when you look on the channel, we did like 20 different lives streams. They're all here talking about different aspects of SUSUW, meditation, and so forth. But so you get even more, additional information. But so you see the course, and when you click on the amount, so we have the amount is 4 weeks is $400. We at checkout you can do a payment plan, and on the Square platform, this is the difference that what we included today. The Afterpay option allows you to break the payment up into 4 interest-free payments of $99.75. Now, those of you who are subscribers, you have a discount. Instead of $3.99, it's $2.99, and then it's broken up into 4 payments of $75. So you can either pay it in full, or you can, use Afterpay and pay $99 to register, and then every few weeks you make another payment until it's paid off, and that's how Afterpay works. Within after you finish the course, it takes 4 weeks to finish, and we give you a certificate. I'll show you the certificate in a minute. In fact, let me show you the certificate now. Within the first time you book a session, usually, again, people pay, the smaller organizations will pay $100 to $200. The corporations tend to pay $300 or more, and so forth. This is the certificate, and part of it is a little blocked off with a watermark, but your name here, and talk about, this is your certification, the date and everything. So, and you're part of that, list of individuals. We've certified over 40 plus people. And so we have 40 plus people out in the community around the country and so forth, teaching our people, assisting them with their holistic health and, mental health, emotional health, cultural and spiritual and so forth, enhancing learning outcomes and work productivity and everything else. And, if they need to reach out, if the organization needs to reach out to us to verify, of course, they can do that. Some places will allow you to come in just via word of mouth. They hear that you are good at what you do, and, they'll say, okay, we'll come in and, conduct a session. Most organizations need to see some form of credential. So that satisfies their funding sources. They need to see some credential. And this is why, although we've been teaching SUSUW meditation for 20 years now, 21 years actually, we started certifying last year. So the first 20 years we were just teaching it just so people can benefit. But because people were having to go to other organizations to sit, for hours, and sometimes they would get charged $1,000 or $1,500, $2,000 for these certifications from some Hindu organization or white New Age organization, getting misinformation. Instead of doing that, we said we're going to give real information, authentic SUSUW, authentic meditation that's tailored specifically for our people, that benefits our people. And of course, it's much cheaper than anything Weiss and Armstrong are putting forward, plus it's accurate information. So we started certifying people last year. So the first 20 years was, teaching, but then we started certifying last year. So that is your credential, and you can take that anywhere, in this country and outside of this country. Because we also have people internationally who are doing the same thing. They have taken the course and they are registered and teaching, for example, like in London, so, and Amsterdam. Now, what we added today is the PayHip option, which is the green button. And the reason why we added that is because for the Afterpay option, with the Square platform, you can break it up into 4 individual payments, but for certain individuals, they may not qualify to, do that. And people had inquiries because some people weren't qualified. They'll say, well, you don't have enough in your Afterpay account to, take advantage of this split payment option. So what we did today, because we just learned about that, is we added the PayHip option. So if you didn't qualify for that, but you still wanted to do a payment plan option because you weren't able to pay up front, here's what we added. The green button, the PayHip option. Hold on 1 second. Make sure you can see that. All right. So when you click on the green button, you'll see, there are different options here. And you'll notice that the first time you book a session, say you book a session at a place of employment or a school or, a shelter or a cultural organization, usually the first $100 to $200 that pays for the first part of your course. And the next time you go and they give you another $200 check, within a couple of weeks, you pay for your entire course. Within the first 2 weeks, usually people within the first 2 weeks, the first two gigs that they contract, that ends up paying their entire course off. And that we designed it specifically in that manner. We didn't want to be trying to overcharge people. The books that are part of this are free downloads. We want to make sure people were able to get the information they needed in a timely fashion, not stretched out over months and so forth. 4 weeks, you get the information you need to engage in introductory meditation sessions for our people, to empower our people. So, okay, so here what you'll see is the only difference is, there are different options. You can pay the full amount. Since you're a subscriber, you wouldn't pay the $3.99, you'll pay the $2.99 because you are a subscriber. So it says member discount full registration. If you can't pay the full registration, you can either make the $199 deposit installment, or you can do a $99 deposit, and then the other installments of $99 you can pay once a month. And there's no credit check involved. You just go back to pay HIP once a month. So you pay $99 today. You're registered for the course, and then next month you pay the next $99. The month after that, the next $99. The month after that, and then you're done. So the course begins Tuesday, August 19th. We have a few spaces left. So if you would like to register, you can simply go here. You can either choose the Afterpay option with the brown button, or let's see if you qualify for that, and you just click Afterpay, and they'll, cover the entire amount, and you just pay in full. Or if you don't qualify for that, you can go to the green button, or you can go to the green button first, go directly to this page, and choose which deposit option you would like, and it's taken care of. So that is the SUSUW course. And if you look on the earlier lives on this page, you will see that we have gone into detail, laying out an introduction to the entire course and what's used and what books we use and so forth. You'll see all of that. We have a number of different lives recorded on this YouTube channel. Now, let's flip over. And this is the final piece we want to talk about today. We're just going to touch on the Akua piece right quick. We've done a few lives as well on the Nimdeesem, which is our Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree. Once again, it's designed specifically to, just like other people have Bachelor of Arts degrees and so forth, and they utilize that for employment. What we focus on here is edupreneurship. So we did a whole live on this notion of the edupreneur. That's a burgeoning field, and we're at the forefront of that field. Here's the live that we did on that. So you're utilizing your degree to engage in entrepreneurship, but an education entrepreneur, they just combine the terms. So when you Google edupreneur, it's an educational entrepreneur. Instead of saying, okay, I have a degree, I'm going to go and try to work at a college and hopefully get a salary. You take the degree, you take your credential, you establish a product or a service and so forth, and then you go and teach. So let me scroll down right quick. Hold on a second. So once again, you can click on the green button or the brown button. It's the same piece, but let's just click on the brown one right now. And it takes you through the same thing. But you will see the full description. And what's different with us is many people offer, degrees based on their institution and so forth. When you look at, okay, in the image on the left here, you see these are some of the 31 books I've published. And then this right here is actually, let me show you the image for that, just so you can have a better understanding of what you're looking at. On our SUSUW page on our website, what we did was, that's a collage. Hold on a second. It's a collage of the 42 online courses that we have curated and taught in our SUSUW institution. When you look at any regular degree program for a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, it's typically 40 or 42 courses. So if you Google how many courses does it take to obtain a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy at any major university, they say between 40 and 42 courses. We started curating, we've been teaching for, over 25 years, over a quarter of a century, but we started curating specific courses in a specific pattern a number of years ago, and we reached our 42nd course here. This is a collage of the flyers of all those 42 courses, and when you scroll further down on the page, you'll see the original flyers for each one. And these are the 42 courses that you will be studying. So when we talk about philosophy, for example, one of the courses is the Aperu course, Hebrews Never Existed, the cosmology of the crossover in Kemet. So we show in the text of ancient Kemet how they manufactured this whole notion of the fictional group called Hebrews who never existed. There were no Black Hebrews. There were no Black Hebrew Israelites. They never existed. It's a story stolen from a cosmological text called the Book of the Cow of Heaven in ancient Kemet, found in the tomb of Seti and Tutankhamen and so forth and others, where they're talking about the followers of Tahuti being led to the ancestral realm after death, and they flip that into the followers of Moshe or Moses. Ma'asher was corrupt, is a title of the god of wisdom. Tahuti was corrupted into Ma'ashe and Moshe and Moshe and Moses. And they said there was a Moses that was living in Palestine and led the people out of Egypt into Palestine to wander and go to the promised land. They stole that from the Book of the Cow of Heaven, the Book of the Heavenly Cow, talking about Tahuti, whose title is Ma'asher, meaning true of word, the scribe of the divine law and so forth, who led the people to the Nebt Het, the divine field of peace and offerings in the ancestral realm when they lived in harmony with divine order. So the entire story of that, as well as the Levitical priesthood and Moses and Aaron, all of that is totally stolen from a cosmological text in ancient Kemet talking about the spirit realm. They tried to make it a carnalized expression in Palestine, which is totally fraudulent. And it's idiotic for our people to try to identify with a fictional group of people. Just like you wouldn't identify with the elves at the North Pole and say you're a North Pole Elvalite. That would be idiotic. It's just as idiotic to identify with a fictional cartoon character group of individuals, Israelites who never existed. So we go into detail about that. We go into detail about various aspects of cosmology. When you study philosophy in a European university, they're going to talk about Greek philosophy, which is useless and misinformed. Roman philosophy, some Arabic, some Hindu, a little bit of Chinese and so forth, even a little sprinkle of maybe some pseudo-Native Americanism. Our philosophical foundations are still sound because they're based on science in the true sense, which is rooted in our ancestral culture, which is based on reality. So our philosophical formulations and foundations are still sound for tens of thousands of years because it's based on truth. So, but this is just one of many courses. But when you scroll down, for example, we have one of the courses, Amani Nationism, the Purification of Nationalism, Nation Building, Restoration Rooted in Our Ancestral Religious Values. We have the course, it was a 6-week course, Res, which is the etymological origin of the term race, etymology, biology, cosmology, and divinity. the spirit genetic identity of the people. So we show the etymology of the word res or race from resiu and resu and resit. There's a male deity called res or resu, a female divinity called resit. And we show the etymology of the term, the cosmology, biology, divinity of the term, and so forth. Totally different from the foolishness that whites are putting forward that race is a social construct and it was created in the 19th century. Pure stupidity. This is a term that was created by our people, still in use by our people, even in our ancestral languages today. And it has to do with forces in nature and also the root people. When you see the sacred nekeb plant from the Resit, the south, representative of our people, you'll see where the term race and family and gender and also species come from. It comes from our ancestral language and culture of Kemet. When you deal with philosophy, you're often dealing with the notion of identity and what's in harmony with order. So all these different courses, 42 of them, all the original flyers here. Cosmology, dealing with biology, medicine, culture, spirituality, trustery, the same kinds of topics that you will find in a Eurocentric, philosophical course, but of course they're giving misinformation. So we're giving accurate information, and once we're, grounded in this knowledge, we can take it to the community, and there's an immediate, tangible benefit when it transforms the minds of our people, and they reroute themselves from self-destructive behavior, emotionally unstable behavior, mentally unstable behavior, move towards self-productive behavior, self-affirming behavior, entrepreneurship, family, communalism, building, nation building, restoration, and so forth. It's an immediate benefit. Also, on the holistic health side, which is critical, are people transforming not only their diets and their lifestyle and their quote unquote mental health, but also approaching, medicine from a holistic perspective, like for women having fibroids and so forth, going through our philosophical approach rooted in our ancestral culture, they will move towards naturopathic physicians. And instead of going to some white physician who says they have to have their uterus removed, they need a hysterectomy, which is always racism directed towards our women. They'll go get 1, 2, 3 opinions, and all of these Western trained doctors will say, well, you need a hysterectomy. You need your uterus removed to deal with these fibroids, because they're grounded in our philosophy. If someone came to one of your presentations because you have a degree in philosophy, Nimdeesem, from our institution, and you're giving them not only cosmology, but that's wedded to information about holistic health from an Afro-Akani perspective, then when they go through that, their mindset, their philosophical mindset is, I'm not going to move towards that information from the whites and their offspring. I'm going to look towards approach to medicine and healing rooted in our ancestral culture, which will lead you to naturopathic physicians in our culture. And they'll show you an herbal regimen where you can shrink the tumors and they pass out of the body without surgery. And sisters, as well as brothers, have been, guiding our people towards that for decades. They've healed thousands and thousands and thousands of women for decades, while others are going and getting chemotherapy and all other kinds of things, very often leading to their death and so forth, while the holistic health practitioners, rooted in our philosophy, are healing our people. So, and the same thing is true of mental health. Everybody's talking about mental health. We did a live yesterday talking about the nature of the Cherep and the Cherepit. Cherep, masculine, Cherepit, feminine. These are titles, masculine and feminine, of a certain class of priest and priestess in Kemet. And the Cherepit was corrupted into therapy and therapy, and the therapist to therapist and so forth, with a totally different connotation. So the ritual healers and healeresses, the priests and priestesses who still exist in our ancestral cultures today, those are the original quote unquote psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists and so forth. And we have a firm foundation philosophically to heal our people emotionally, mentally, spiritually, culturally, and physiologically. So there's a direct benefit when we teach from our cultural perspective. So you see there are 42 different online courses. Also included Meduten Toro Parts 1 and Parts 2, Divine Inscription. You're learning how to read and write the language of ancient Kanedi Kemet, the hieroglyphs and so forth. And it's also compared with contemporary Afurakani, Afro-Akkadian African languages. So you have, knowledge of these languages as well, and make that comparative linguistic analysis showing that the ancient language and script was preserved in our contemporary languages today. And you see the origin of these European words as well that they stole from our people. So this, when you scroll through, you'll see all of the 42 courses. So let me just go back to this. All right. So when you go to the page, you will see that this is critical. Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, that is what your diploma will say. In addition to that, you will have the title Nimdeesem, which means the affairs or issues of knowledge and so forth. So that's the Akan title for Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy. So your diploma will say Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, no different than any diploma you will get from a, degree program at any other university, but you'll also have the title Nimdeesem. Now, we talk about a little bit of the true history of the organization. Akongwasuya as an institution in 13,001, so-called 2001. So it's been, 24 years and so forth. We were teaching before that, but to establish it as an institution, we've been teaching for a quarter of a century. So the 31 books we have published, including this new anthology, which is 32, plus the 42 online courses. This has been curated over a quarter of a century. It's been tested in different cities across the country and so forth to show its validity. Now, so we talk about the 42 online courses that make up the piece, and we go into some detail about that. We talk about it is a self-study program. So you, for example, you have one of the courses, say that Aperu course about the Hebrews never existing and the philosophy behind that. That was a 4-week course and was 4 2-hour sessions. So you go through that, the video archives of that entire course. When you are ready, when you've gone through all of them, then it's time to test. Then we do a live Zoom session like this, and you test on the information. Once you pass that test, then you completed that course, then you go to the next course, and you go through all 42 courses. The maximum is 42 weeks. The minimum is 21 weeks. So if you test for one course per week, you'll be complete with the program in 42 weeks. If you decide to test 2 courses per week, then you'll be done with the program in 21 weeks. But we won't do more than 2 courses per week. So you study them, read the books, study the videos, watch the presentations and everything. When you're ready, you reach out, and then we go through the live test and so forth. And then it's also a question and answer session to get, any clarity you need and so forth. We do that, then go to the next piece. What's critical about that is within the first 2 weeks, you actually get the SUSUW course we just talked about, part 1, and then the second week is part 2. Within the first 2 weeks, you get your SUSUW certification, your meditation instructor certification. So you can use that certification after the first 2 weeks to start going out, teaching or conducting meditation sessions and making money for yourself while you're continuing the remainder of your 21 weeks, or if you go the full 42 weeks, or if you're somewhere in between like 30 weeks, while you're still studying and, moving towards your bachelor's degree, you're making money with your SUSUW certification. We did it that way purposely because we wanted people to be able to benefit immediately within the first 2 weeks to start generating income. And in fact, within the first few weeks, you generate enough income to cover your entire tuition. So we talk about that there. We did a whole live on this, so you can go back and check that out. We talk about the registration and all that. Now, we talk about the notion of the edupreneur, but this is the other piece. Entrepreneurship, paid opportunities available with Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, Nimdeesem degree. This is what sets apart ours from anybody else. We give you a list of ways to use the degree to make money. So for example, when people have Alcoholics Anonymous therapy groups and circles, and they want someone to come out and teach something about culture because they know that culture infuses motivation, a sense of pride, self-worth, groundedness, and gives some people something to aspire towards, and it transforms their mind. Oh, I didn't know this about who I am. They become more proud of who they are. That self-hatred begins to dissipate, self-love returns, a sense of self-worth returns, and they're more productive in their program and more forward-looking and affirmative in life and so forth. So they bring people out who have some knowledge of culture. They have money set aside. All of these organizations have money set aside. All of these shelters, all of these human services organizations, they have money set aside to bring people out once a week or once every few days to speak with their groups. But they're like, do you know anybody who has some expertise? Do you know anybody who has a degree in African philosophy, who can assist our clients by sharing things with them that they never knew before, that they never learned in school? You have your certification, you have your credential, they'll bring you out. So just to go quickly through the list and we'll be done. Alcoholic Anonymous groups, circles, Narcotics Anonymous groups, even gambling. We said women's shelters and family shelters, whether people are dealing with domestic abuse, homelessness, needing housing, all of that. Funds are allocated to pay various presenters on various topics, including holistic health, meditation, culture, philosophy, which is critical to shaping participants' self-worth and confidence, and more. Most of these organizations pay a few $100s to have you come out and speak with their group. So any human services organization, they have that. Employer cultural events calendars. MLK holiday, they have money set aside. Hey, we're going to bring somebody out to speak for the Martin Luther King holiday. Do you know anybody who is intelligent and has information they can share with our people for 15 or 20 minutes about history? Doesn't matter what the program is talking about. You can touch our Martin Luther King, and then you can weave in ancestral culture and symbolism and cosmology and things that can benefit our people. You can read the room and see what things you want to introduce from these 42 courses you study. And there are those celebrations across the city and across the country. So they always need somebody. They have money set aside. As long as someone has a credential like yourself, certified, you have a diploma and so forth, they're like, okay, he has a degree in philosophy, bring him out, and so forth. And then the word gets out that you did a good job, and they're going to say, okay, bring this sister out again. Black History Month, there are events all across the country. There are multiple events in your own city or a neighboring city. Once they need someone to speak at some school or some business or some organization, cultural organization, event and so forth, when they find out you have what they need, you can go. Memorial Day was actually Decoration Day, was created by our people after the Civil War to memorialize our deceased who fought in the war. It's an ancestral observance. The whites in Alice Springs took it over and called it Memorial Day. We called it Decoration Day. More and more people are learning that. So that becomes an ancestral observance for us. And there are many observances across the country talking about the Black origin of Memorial Day, and they have events. They need people to speak on that. You can tailor your speech specifically to that. Juneteenth, now that that's popular all across the country, there are events they need people to come out and teach and so forth. Black August is an entire month, just like Black History Month is all of February. Black August is all of August, deals with political prisoners and resolution and so forth. Leaders who dealt with, liberation and so forth. They have events all across the country. Kwanzaa, of course. And then there are events throughout the course every month of the year, there are events that employers and organizations have, and they want someone to come out and present. Sometimes on true history, sometimes on holistic health, sometimes on culture, sometimes on philosophy and African philosophy in the context of mental health and so forth. You do a short presentation on that just to open people's minds so they have something to focus their further studies on, a number of different things. Schools and after school programs, weekend programs for youth, summer programs. If you are someone who likes to work with children, all of these programs have funds set aside and they just need someone. And usually the supervisor's like, hey, do you know anybody that knows anything about African culture, ancestral culture, philosophy, something they can teach the youth and get their attention and so forth? Just let me know. They find out about you. You're certified. You have a degree in philosophy and so forth. They bring you out. You do a great job, and the word of mouth spreads. Multiple opportunities for that. Then you can host your own events. You can rent out a community center at a park district or a conference room somewhere and pay $50 or $100 for a few hours, have an event, have people come out. You can conduct a meditation session, or you can just do a presentation. You can do a video presentation on ancient Kanini Kemet or the Hoodoo tradition or Yoruba tradition or whatever you want to talk about or whatever is going on, in the community at the time. You can give an analysis rooted in our ancestral culture and how we should approach these things, current events, whatever it is. And people typically, they need something to do outside of what's going on in the city. If they know there's a cultural event going on, you can have some food there, a food vendor, a holistic health food vendor. You can have other vendors. You could order books wholesale based on the information you talk about and sell them and so forth and make money that way. You can host meditation sessions. You can host your own events and generate income for your own events. You can rent out a conference room once every Sunday for a couple of hours, have people come out, or every other Sunday or every other Saturday, or you can rent out a space, a community meeting room, and have a meditation session, have some products to sell and so forth, have people pay you a small fee or donate for the meditation session. People just want to commune, connect with other like minds, get some holistic health information, engage in a ritual practice that's sound and beneficial. So you can host your own events or some combination thereof. So we have an entire list of that, and we assist you with that. So even before you finish the 21 weeks, within your first 2 weeks, you have that first certification, you can start generating money immediately. And we did that purposely. So you can become an edupreneur immediately. Excuse me. So the only other thing is the registration here, similar to what we said on the other one. So with the brown button, it's the afterpay option. So you click for new students. And once again, there is the afterpay option. So the tuition is $600. All the books are included. All the 31 books are included and so forth. You can do 4 interest-free installments of $150. Now, but again, if you don't qualify for that, and this is the reason we updated this today, instead of using that one, let's go back. This is the one we created today for our Kongwasuya. Instead of using the brown button for the afterpay option, you can use the pay hip option. That's the green button. Hold on a second. And as you see, once again, you can either pay in full or there's no credit check involved in this one. you simply make the payment here, and then next month for your installment, you just come back here, make the payment again, and the following month and so forth. So you can pay the full registration, or you can do a $199 deposit, and then $199 for the next month and $199 for the month after that, and you'll be done. Or you can do a $149 deposit and then pay in 3 monthly installments, $149 today, and you can start studying. And then next month, $149, and a couple of months after that. Or you can make a $99 deposit and you can start studying today, and we'll send you the syllabus and everything. And then once a month on the same date, next month on, September 14th, you pay $99. The month after that, $99 until you finish the entire 6 months of total $600, no credit check and so forth. So we just, as we said, we just did that today because people reached out and said, sometimes the Afterpay doesn't give you the full amount, or you may not qualify at this particular time and so forth. But we didn't realize that some people were not able to register because of that. So, but our SUSUW course, once again, starts Tuesday. So the SUSUW course starts Tuesday. That's a 4-week course. We have a few spaces left open for that. So whether you do the pay-hip option installment plan or the regular Afterpay, you can go on the site now and register for that. You can let other individuals know. We also have, by the way, you will see it on the site. We have a referral fee option for you. So if you refer people to the course, once they pay their full registration, we'll send you $100 for referring the person. So if they pay $399, we'll send you $100 because you referred them. We have a video on the site talking about that. It's open. Our courses are open to Afro-Akani people, African Black people exclusively. We only teach and register and train and certify our own people. So the SUSUW course, Meditation Instructor Certification, begins Tuesday. We have a few openings for that. And the Nimdeesem, or the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree program, is open now. Enrollment for August is now. So you can start immediately and start studying immediately. And you can start that process of getting ready for your first, live Zoom test. And within, as we said, the first 2 weeks, you will have your certification for SUSUW, and you can start generating income right away. And as we said before, the first couple of events, they will cover your tuition. We mentioned that we had the anthology. So we have our 31 books, but we took 12 of the books and created an anthology, 600-page book, full color, soft cover book, 8.5 by 11. And this is the book. And let me just show you right quick. What's that? It's on Amazon, but if you order from us, there's a 30% discount. And so that is the book. And it includes 12 of our 31 books that have been expanded and enhanced and so forth. We just released that a few months ago in March. So that trailer goes into detail about that, but that is available. You can order that book now. And there's also on that page, the book is, when you go to the Square site, you will see that the book is, when you order from us, is $44 plus shipping. The shipping is $8, so it's a total of $52. But when you click on the site, there is the Afterpay option where you can break that up into 4 separate payments of $13. So when you go on the page, the publications page on our website, or the Akongwa SUSUW page, you'll see that video at the top. We have the video for this book also on this YouTube channel. You'll see that you have the option to pay the $44 plus shipping to purchase the book, or you can choose the 4 payment split and pay $13 up front and then you pay the other $13 payments over time. But once you choose the 4 split payment and so forth, we ship the book to you. It takes a couple of weeks to ship. We get the books from Amazon and then we ship them to you. So you can do that as well. Okay. All right. So it's 90 minutes in. We're going to go ahead and end it here. If you have any questions, just let us know. kwesiakan@gmail.com. We look forward to connecting with you in class in the SUSUW course on Tuesday, or within the Nimdeesem, the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree program, starting immediately. Again, Yerase, we thank you for tuning in with us. And Yebeshabio, we will meet again. That's it.
SUSUW, Meditation Instructor Certification. SUSUW is the ancient Akan term for meditation. SUSUW originated in our ancestral culture of Afuraka, Africa, tens of thousands of years ago. This ancient practice has been utilized to regulate physical, emotional, and mental balance for millennia in varied expressions wherever our people have migrated in the world. The scientific benefits of meditation for youth and adults have been well documented, enhancing learning outcomes, regulating behavior, overcoming anxiety and depression, rebalancing hormones, lowering blood pressure, reducing stress, regulating weight loss, overcoming addictions, developing discipline, maintaining focus to overcome obstacles to short and long-term goals. Our meditation instructor certification is for individuals, independent contractors, educators, homeschoolers, human services professionals, behavioral health professionals, and others. As a certified instructor, you are qualified to contract with independent schools, charter schools, cultural organizations, corporate entities, women's and family shelters, community centers, colleges, and more to conduct meditation sessions on a daily, weekly, or periodic basis. Our instruction is rooted in our Nkwamwa whole life wellness model.
Kirmo, that means greetings. I just wanted to give a quick update. You'll get the details in the clip that follows. I just wanted to show everyone. So my soft cover book, Odwirafo True Historical Anthology, is now available. It's live on Amazon, but we also have a 30% discount when you order directly through our website. As we said before, in some of the postings and information we sent out, Amazon takes 60% off the top for booksellers on their distribution site and so forth. So we can offer it at a 30% discount, on our website. So you'll get the information in the clip that follows, but 8.5 by 11 size, 600 pages, full color, and we go into detail about various aspects of African ancestral religion, culture, nation building, true historical information, spirituality, cosmology, and every facet of African Black identity, and so forth. So check out the clip that follows. We look forward to connecting with you, and Yerase, we thank you for your support. Odwirafo, True Historical Anthology. This is a collection of 12 books in one volume written by Odwirafo Kwesi Radnehmpata Akan. This 600-page anthology is comprised of 12 books within the 31-book corpus published by Odwirafo, which focus on trustery, cosmology, ritual, identity, and nation-building restoration for Afurakani, Afurite Kaitnit people, African Black people, wherever we exist in the world. Included within this anthology is the origin of the fictional characters Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, Buddha, and more. The etymology of the term God in the language of ancient Kemet, quote-unquote Egypt. Origin of the term Afuraka, Afurite Kayet, Africa in Kemet. Etymology and cosmology of religion and spirit in Kemet. Ankh and Kara, the origin of the terms yoga and chakra in Kemet. Afurakani, Afurite Kaitnit, African Black origin of civilization. Divine order in Afurakani, Afurite Kaitnit, African cosmology. Ritual in Afurakani, Afurite Kaitnit, African ancestral religion. Nature of the soul as divine consciousness in Akan cosmology. More means dead. Male-female complementary balance in ancestral religion. Ancestresses, ancestors, goddesses, gods, biology, geology. Racial exclusivity in ancestral religion. Spirigenetic inheritance. Divine prohibition against dissexuality, homosexuality in Kemet. Black nation building, restoration, rooted in ancestral religion, and more. This anthology was curated to function as a volume that will positively transform the mind of any Afurakani, Afurite Kaitnit, African Black individual, youth, or adult who receives it. We examine every facet of Afurakani, Afurite Kaitnit, African identity, empowering readers to transform their minds and thus transform their condition wherever they exist in the world. Special 30% discount for our subscribers and followers. See our website to order now. Yerase.